Welcome to the Tradie Wife Life podcast, brought to you by Tradies in Business, where we talk to tradie wives about their goals, their challenges, their hopes and dreams, and how their trade business can help with that. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the show. Fantastic to have you joining me here again today. And I have another amazing guest. And we're going to talk today a little bit about something that I'm very passionate about. Anyone who's found my personal Instagram will know that I love an organized home and I love a well-decorated home and all things interior design. But we've got an expert with us today. Jess, thank you so much for joining me today. Jess's business name is Clean Organized Home, and you got it. We're going to be talking all things organization. Hello, Jess.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Jess, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be on the show with us today.
Okay, so I am a mum of two and I run a home organising business. So pretty much I help people declutter and organise their homes. Office, I also offer virtual organising, so I can do that anywhere, wherever you are in Australia. And I'd just like to help people organise their homes. It's such a mental thing that for people to be actually able to function in their homes and not feel overwhelmed. And I just like to help people get things in order, have a spot for everything, and it just helps us able to function in our homes.
100%. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, of all the things you do, Jess, I can imagine you see some pretty interesting stuff. No judgment, of course.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here thinking about the current state of my not so teenage anymore, 19-year-old apprentice carpenter's bedroom, and then my almost 21-year-old entrepreneur's bedroom. And they're an absolute crap fight. It's dreadful. And I'm thinking, oh my God, do you have to go in and deal with those things?
I do.
I walked into my 90-year-old carpenter apprentice's room the other day. He'll be on the podcast very soon, ladies, so we can, tear him apart together virtually. But there are tuna cans in his bedroom and there are lolly wrappers. And, of course, there's lots of chocolate after Easter. It's just dreadful in there. And I think it's probably pretty typical of young men. So is that the kind of stuff that you're always walking into? Or are you walking into homes that are, just the normal family disorganization because we're so busy doing what we do?
Yeah, I mean, I've had everything, to be honest. I actually just did a young guy's room last week. A mum just was sick of all the crap hanging around, and I went in there and we just went through everything and organised his wardrobe, and it was great. I think it's also good for them to have a bit of a refresh, and then they kind of get used to that, and then they like, oh yeah, it's actually nice to walk in here and it's not clothes everywhere and everything like that. So I've kind of dealt with lots of different things. I do pantries, which I've definitely seen a few old and expired items.
Yes.
That's probably one of the most typical areas that I do work on, because pantries are the heart of the home. You're cooking every day, and when you can't find something, or you've found this old whatever it is in the back of the pantry, you're like, oh yuck, like how long's that been there? So it's definitely seeing lots of different things throughout the experience over the last 2 years that I've had the business.
Yeah, I can imagine some of it would leave you a bit mind-boggled and scratching your head. And I must admit, I'm one of those people that only recently cleaned out my spice shelf. And
yes, spices.
TikTok told me that there's probably something in there that's 10 years out of date, and they were damn well right. There was stuff in there I've had forever.
Yep.
And you just don't think about it. And I think it was cloves. I never use cloves. I don't even know why I have them.
And you always buy that spice that you need it for one, dish, and then it stays there forever. I actually had probably the oldest spice I found was from like 1992. And someone was still using that. So, herbs and spices, they expiry dates, whether you go by them or not, but, they kind of do last a bit longer. But, that was probably my oldest one I found.
That's a cracker. You'll have to keep like a library of all of these interesting
Yes.
Jess, now your business has been running for about 2 years. How did you come to be doing this? Like this, I find this really fascinating, very cool. We spoke briefly off air about that headspace piece that we'll get into a little bit later, and how you can really help to provide some clarity around the home and therefore in every other avenue of life. But, you know, as a career choice or a business choice, I imagine this isn't, I don't know, did you grow up wanting to do this as a little girl?
Oh, definitely not. I have, to be honest, like I never thought that this could be a job. Um, but I was actually in the travel industry for about over 10 years. And I was in corporate travel, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And the travel industry, of course, wasn't doing so well. And my boss had already actually sold the business just prior to COVID, and we were moving over to someone else, and they just couldn't take us all on. And so I was kind of the last one standing, and I thought, I'm not going to be, here for too much longer. I need to decide what I want to do. And COVID, no jobs were available. I was trying everything from reception to, like being in travel, it's a lot of jobs all in one. But for them to actually say, oh, you don't have reception and experience those type of things in COVID, it was like, well, I do all of that, but they don't see it that way. So I think it was in the first lockdown, what was that, 2020, I started an Instagram page just because I had a 10-month-old at the time and I was home a lot. And I was still working from home a couple of days a week in the travel at that point. And I just started an Instagram page called Clean Organised Mama, and I just saw a lot of other people doing those type of things online, nice pictures of organised homes. And I'd always had, I'd always been organised. I always had my wardrobe nice, and, I just like to clean space. And I did start that page, and it kind of grew. I had a lot of questions about how I actually stayed organised. And I'm like, I didn't really think a lot of people struggled as much as they did. Because I had a 10-month-old, and it being a mum, it's hard to keep up with everything. And I just found having an organised space was a lot easier for me. The fact that I could find things, and I didn't really realise how many people struggled with it, and I kept getting questions and questions. And then when I think it was 2021, I was kind of knew that my job was kind of going to be ending. I went to my husband. I just said, should I just start an organising business? It was just starting to kind of, I'd seen a couple of other people doing it, and I just decided, okay, I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. There wasn't really much startup costs to it, really, because it was just a service, and you just have to buy the products, and the clients buy the products anyway. So it was really, I just kind of had to get on and start an Instagram page or Facebook page and just kind of advertise through there. And I'd already had a bit of a following on my other, like, kind of mum organising page. And that's literally how it started, and I kind of haven't stopped since. I mean, I did just have my second baby 7 months ago. So I did have a bit of a break, but I'm back doing it now. But yeah, it's just crazy. From then I just haven't really stopped, and then it's been the best. I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, I love what you do also. I pride myself as being quite organised, and then I must admit, I cleaned my desk before, and you can't even see my desk. No one can see my desk, only me.
Yeah.
But it reminded me, knowing that I was talking to you today, I'm like, Nicole, this is dreadful. You need to sort this out. So I have cleaned myself up today, and I guess that's the point there I'm trying to make is we all get busy, and areas in our home, particularly the ones behind doors, become dumping zones, and we can't see the wood for the trees. It's I could relate this back to business lessons, and we will later. However, at the moment, we can't see it. We're so busy, we don't know how to change it. And you become very stuck in your space, I think. And the advantage of using, for me, a service like yours is that somebody can come in with fresh eyes and really calculate the space out and how it could be utilised. Can you tell me, Jess, about that journey that you take your client on? So do you typically just do one area, or are you looking at how to utilise the entire home every time you do a consultation?
Yeah, so it just depends what the client, I guess, what they are wanting. I have some people who want their whole house done. I have some people who just want, say, their pantry done. But I find once they actually start with one area, they want the rest done because they know what that feeling is at the end of it. And they're like, oh, I can breathe. Okay, let's move on to the next, area. So that's kind of how, my business has built, is I've had a lot of repeat clients, and they just keep wanting, okay, we're done the pantry, the kitchen now. Okay, let's move on to the bedrooms. So, and it's amazing, the feeling that you can just see their relief or their anxiety, definitely, like, just their relief after that. It's just like at the end, I'm just like, wow, that feeling that they must have now. And I think showing them how to do it as well, so then they can continue on with it, because it's not just once it's done, it's done. It's all about the maintenance as well, but it's going to be a lot less overwhelming for the maintenance after that. You're going to be able to do it a lot quicker than what it would have been done before, and especially when they don't know where to start. That's the main thing that I just hear people say. They don't know where to start. And that's pretty much what we come in and do. Literally just come in, and normally, being a mum or having a very busy life, they're not going to be able to have that time, that 8 hours, to be able to pull everything out and put it all back in. So that's why having someone else do it, when you can you don't have to be there the entire time, you can leave us to do it, and then you can go off and do other things. Just to be able to have the time, I think, is the main issue that clients say. They just don't have that time.
I don't have it. And yet I've had to make it just so that I can function in my home.
Exactly. And that's what it's about. Like, it's just that some of these rooms take so long to do that they just don't have that one full day that they can actually commit to it, because there's kids sports, there's literally kids hanging off you, or, you've got a busy work life. It's just one of those things that is not necessarily, I don't think people really pencil it into their schedule to do, because it's kind of I'll get to that later, and then that's how things pile up, and then it becomes too overwhelming, and that's, I guess, where we come in.
Jess, what's the key to an organised home?
Well, maintenance for sure. It is a constant, like, as much as you can organize a space and have it done, and it might last a day or so, and then we have to live life, and it's just all about putting things back where they go. Or at the end of the week, if the pantry's gotten messy, okay, I'm going to spend 5 minutes just tidying it up a little bit. It will take a lot less time after it's organized. Like the junk drawer, so many people, they just chuck stuff in. But if you just have a couple of little containers in there that your chargers go into, and even if you've chucked stuff in there that week, okay, at the end of the week, it literally takes a couple of minutes, where they go, and it's tidy again. So it's just about building those systems in the house to be able to maintain. That's number one. That I think people sometimes say, oh, it's organized, it's going to stay like this forever. But we have to live in the home. You want to have messes. That's just life. So it's just it's that, okay, I'm going to put things back where it belongs and where it was allocated to, and then you're going to have a lot less time cleaning up at the end. Yeah,
absolutely. I was sharing with you offline before we started recording today that I'm really privileged to go into my clients' homes lots of the time on Zoom calls when we do our sessions together. And I can often tell how they're going to show up by what's in the background. And I think it's a really important point for us to be making here today about how organisation can actually affect the headspace, and then how effective you can be in your daily life, whether it be as a mum or as a business person or running off to work in your career. It can really make a big difference. What sort of things have you seen around those shifts that people make, Jess, once they can find that organisation again?
Yeah, well, I feel like people can kind of have their own routines once they know where things are. They're going to spend a lot less time kind of finding things. They're going to it's just a lot less anxiety and overwhelm in the house. So, you could definitely tell where someone's head is at when you walk into a home, and you could be like, okay, I can see they're really like stressed right now because this area is really messy, or it's really amazing at how much it can affect your mental state. And I know for sure that's me completely, especially after having my second baby. I had he's been a hard baby. He's only now kind of getting a little bit easier. But he was attached to me for, 10 weeks. I couldn't put him down. He was in the carrier the whole time. I couldn't get to do what I could do, around the house. And that really played on my mental state. I was so filled with anxiety that I actually even had to go to the GP and, see a psychologist, because it was really, and of course it was the stress of having a newborn as well, but knowing that I couldn't get to those things, and that was playing a big thing on my mental state. It's unbelievable how much it can actually play into it. And you can just tell when you walk into someone's house, you can be like, okay, they're feeling frazzled. They're feeling like they're just, only just paddling, they're just, feeling that overwhelm. And then at the end of it, you can just see a bit of calm at the end.
I think it's a fantastic point. I think, it's the messy mind syndrome, and we all carry this invisible load. And I know where it really shows up for me is two places: in my kitchen, and everybody knows my kids, and no one's allowed in my kitchen. It's got to be just because it really helps with my headspace. And then the other thing is at my front door. The kids come home and kick their shoes off because we're a no-shoe house. And it's a mess. It does my head in. And so I'll go out for a walk, or I'll go off and do whatever and come home. And immediately I can feel that anxiety or pressure or stress or overwhelm as I walk up my stairs, and I can see the kids' shoes behind the gate we have on the stairs. It immediately feels wrong to me, so much so we have this huge box out there. But of course, the two kids that are home are the boys I just referenced earlier, and I don't know, there's something wrong with their heads. They can't quite get the shoes go from the ground into the box.
Yes, it's hard for some.
Oh, yes, it's a challenge. But it immediately creates a pressure for me that I then carry into absolutely everything I do for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And I feel it's really overlooked because we're stuck in that space. We can't see it for ourselves. We are often even unaware that we're carrying that around. It's another invisible thing. I spoke many, many moons ago on the Tradies in Business podcast about my husband and how we had a typical builder's wife. My homes are always 3/4 finished. They're never completely done. Not until
I've seen a few of those too.
Yes, they do my head in. But we had this set of stairs out the front of the house that the kids couldn't use, and we couldn't open. The whole house was glass. We couldn't open up the front windows or the front sliding doors because the set of stairs hadn't been completed. We need to put some balustrade in on the deck, and likewise down on the stairs. Now, he carried that around, and it really contributed to his early depression. He carried that around for a really long time, invisibly. He didn't realize that it was putting that pressure on him. And then when we sat down, I think we'd done a session with a psychologist or a counselor or something that we were working with together. We sat down after and sort of wrote a list about all of the things that were bothering him that he hadn't given time or effort to think about. And that was right up the top of the list. So we made a plan and we completed that job. And it wasn't until that job was completed, and it took a while, in between work, of course, and you're exhausted. Eventually he got through it all. But he could not believe the lack of pressure that he felt every day in his home, where he's meant to come home and relax and feel that physical release and that mental release. He could not believe the difference it made for him. And I encourage everybody listening to this podcast to think about, well, what are you packing into that invisible load without really realizing it? And I reckon for many of us, it's this concept of organization and just trying to cope on the day-to-day with being busy and taking care of running businesses and taking care of family, doing all of the things that we do. Are there some spaces in your home or even your business life that could be organized for you that could create a better outcome so that you're not carrying around all of that stress and that overwhelm on the day-to-day?
So as I said before, like the kitchen, I know that I can't go to bed with a messy kitchen. And I know that that's a lot of people's stress area, because people put random things on the bench. You've got the dining table, you've got kind of the dumping ground. And things pile up and it just ends up being this array of different things, plus also the cooking, also everything else. So the kitchen, I would say, is priority. And it's even in the newborn stage where I went through, I said, okay, no matter how tired I am, that kitchen needs to be tidy and clean so that I can wake up in the morning and not already be behind.
Yes.
And I cook because, of course, we start the morning in the kitchen. We're having breakfast, we're having coffee, everything like that. And then it just becomes a mess again. Yeah. So you don't want to, add extra. So, and I think that's where it gets overwhelming. So I make a plan every single night, and people who follow my Clean Organised Mama page will know, because I share a lot of cleaning and organisation on there, and I have routines in place, and that is the one thing, no matter what, I go to bed every night with a clean kitchen. And yes, it can be hard. Some nights we don't do it till 9 o'clock at night if the kids are having a bad night, or but I know that I will wake up and feel so much better for doing that. I think everyone can feel after having even like a big deep clean of a room, or like even vacuuming the floor on a carpet, that it just all looks nice, and you walk in, you're like, oh, there's nothing on the floor, and it feels so nice to walk into. That's the feeling I think that the kitchen should make you feel at the end of the day. And I know so many people struggle with that, and it's a really big thing. So I would just say, like, dishwasher on every night if you can, so then you can unpack it in the morning. Just have the clean benches if you can. Put things away as you're cooking, because I think that's when people get stuck. They kind of keep everything out when they're cooking, and it just becomes an overwhelming mess, and you're like, how am I going to get to that? But if you kind of clean up as you go, it makes a huge difference to then the end of the day. So kitchens, I would say. And of course, I feel like laundry.
Yes.
Laundry is just never ending. Sometimes I feel like you have like 5 piles to fold, and you're like, oh my God, this is just, and it really plays on your mind. You're like, oh my God, it's the end of the day, I've got to fold all that. But I just say, do a load a day. Try to put it away that day, and it just stops it from really piling up. Some people don't, can't get to it that, every day, and that's totally fine. Everyone's so different, but I just make that a priority for me. And I just feel like that is something that keeps me on top of it.
Yeah, totally. Jess, let's talk business. Kicking off a business in the middle of a pandemic, I'm sure that felt a little at the time. It can't have been an easy thing to do, and I love the way it has allowed you to bring that online space to your business immediately. So you're able to do online consultations. Can you explain to me, maybe take it back a step first, let's talk about business and the decision to go into business at that time, and what sort of lessons you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so I knew nothing really about business or running business. My dad's been a sole trader for his own business for 30 plus years. So, but he's very old school. So when I was asking him questions, like, he still fills out invoice books and things. Like, he's very old school. He doesn't really know how to work a computer very well. So as much as I wanted to ask him for his advice, he wasn't really the best person to speak to, because he was still very old school. So, I ended up doing an actual organising course. So there's an organiser out there that kind of came up with a course that had a bit of the business side, how to set up the start of the business. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to invest in, it was a few $100s or whatever it was. And I'm like, yep, okay, I've got to invest in that, because I need to know how to actually run a business. I had no idea how to even start. So lucky I still worked 1 or 2 days a week in the travel while they were kind of, working me out of there. I was able to just kind of set this up on the side. And so I kind of got a little bit of an idea. So, set up a bank account, set up a website. Now, I wanted to do everything as much on a budget as possible just to get started, because I didn't know if this was going to take off, or I had no idea what was going to happen. So my sister had a bit of experience with computers and things like that. So she helped me set up my website. It was very basic, and hindsight, looking back on it now, I would invest money in getting someone to do a really nice website, which is what I've done now. I have someone who was able to do kind of, as a graphic designer, or was able to do my website now. And I feel like I've gotten a lot more business from that now, that it looks really professional and really nice. So that's definitely a lesson I learned from the beginning. I should have just invested, and you don't have to pay someone that much, like just to kind of start up the website. So looking back, I would have done that. But these are the lessons you learn along the way. And I just kind of opened up a bank account, and I didn't really have to do much else other than that. I didn't advertise. I haven't really spent any money on advertising at all since I started. So it's all just word of mouth, Facebook and Instagram. Obviously, I was already had another Instagram, so I was kind of learning about that, how to, grow, I guess. And it's just about being consistent.
Yep.
To start, I also just offered a lot of friends and family to do their places for free, and they just bought like the products, and I just kind of did that. So I had some content to put on, to advertise, and I just kind of did that for a couple of months while I kind of got things set up. But I think in this particular business, there wasn't a whole heap that needed to be done prior, which is lucky, because obviously some businesses need lots of setups and things like that. Like obviously I can just work from home, just get a laptop, just make sure I had, like a business name, obviously ABN, and register domain name. And that's pretty much all I had to do, which was lucky. So it was quite an easy thing for me to do. And then, I just work out products. So search a lot of products and work out, okay, what's something that I can use a lot of everywhere, and kind of get a bit of a back stock. So now my garage is a nightmare right now, because I'm constantly getting stock. As a lot of people see on my other Instagram, I sometimes share it, and it's just a nightmare, because I also take donations for clients, and I've got a pile up of stock, and it's just a bit of a nightmare right now. But so I didn't really have to do a heap to start. But it was pretty basic, but for someone who had no idea how to run a business, to be honest, I'm still learning. I'm still really learning. And I actually definitely now realize the value of hiring someone to do certain things that you can't do great. So I was able to hire the same graphic designer to able to do some templates for me, do certain things on like Canva and things like that for social media that I don't have time, to be honest, to do. Or I was spending too much time on doing that and not doing other things that I could be doing. And so investing some money into that type of thing, so that it's something, one less thing I have to do. Yeah. So they're the types of things I've learnt along the way that, I probably should have done at the beginning, but these are lessons you learn along the way.
Yeah, I think many of us stumble into business. So your journey is not dissimilar to many of our tradie wives that are listening, where in their cases, for many of them, whilst they make a decision to go into working with generally their partners in the trade business, they come in as helpers to begin with. And so there's no real conscious trajectory of what that looks like in terms of career position, because then many of them end up giving away their careers so that they can be running the business side by side with their partners. And I feel like you almost happen across learning. We're very good at what we do. All of us are. So, I was great in pharmacy for many years. The difference with retail is I had opportunity to learn how to run a business, because so much of that can't be done without those opportunities for learning. So there's lots of courses that you can go and do. There's lots of study and certificates to further your knowledge, but that isn't available for people that start small businesses overwhelmingly. And then many of the government type courses that are available are overly complex, and they don't tell you, it's a little bit like going to school. Sure, they tell you how to do the taxes in these courses, but they're not telling you the important stuff like customer relations and how important a sales process is and how important your social media profiles are and what they can do to build your business. So I think, what you're talking about there, what you're expressing with that journey that you've been on and learning as you go is very much the same for many of our tradie wives that are listening in today. Jess, my favorite thing about speaking to you today is knowing that you're right out the front of IKEA on the way to do a job for somebody. It's so
I sure am.
I love IKEA. I've been sharing with my listeners this week, my 21-year-old's about to move out of home, and he has allowed me to help him fill his home with stuff. I am so excited.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it really is exciting. It's like being a kid all over again. Jess, the one thing I really wanted you to unpack for me quickly before we finish up today so that you can get to your client was the concept of the online consultations. I find that really fascinating. I think it's a great idea. I've done some online interior design over the years, many years before Tradies in Business, of course, but I'd love to hear how your process works with that and how you're able to help people over. Do you use Zoom or are you FaceTiming, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we usually start off with the consultation. What the client will actually send through some photos and video first, so then I can get a better look at what we're working with, and then I kind of come up with questions that I need to kind of get off them. I also ask for measurements and things like that of the spaces, because obviously, you need to have the right products to be able to make a space function properly, because I think that's the biggest mistake some people make, is that they don't measure. They go out to Kmart and buy a heap of different things, and then that's when we get called because it's not working and things like that. So we measure, we make sure that we're getting the right products, or we're recommending the right products for them, so then they can keep everything nice and neat and have a home for everything. So then we'll have a consultation over usually FaceTime or Zoom, it just depends. And we kind of go through what's not working for them, what do they want it to be like. I guess we go through their systems and how they work, because everyone is so different with certain things, especially like a kitchen, right? So some people want to have the oils and everything right at their cupboard right near the stove, whereas some people want it just in the pantry. We work with how people actually function and how they work. So I kind of go through personal, family questions like that, and then and we kind of go through, okay, what I guess look are you after as well, because some people want a nice look with certain products, and then I just kind of get as much information as I can, and then I end up writing up a full product list, give that to them, as well as a bit of a diagram where I say, okay, place this here, place this here. And the beauty about the virtual organising one is that they can work at their own pace. They don't have to do it straight away. They can kind of do a shelf a month, or a shelf, whenever they can get time to do it. And so I think that that's something that is good, that they can work at their own time. They can get to it when they can, around all the busy lives that everyone has. And I at least give them that kind of guidance, but they don't have to do it straight away. And also, obviously, less of a cost to have someone come in and actually do it, because it the services, it's not everyone, something that everyone can afford. So I think having the virtual, but also, being able to do it yourself if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, and then I just kind of give a little bit of feedback if they need it. If they're struggling with something, working it all out, then they can just give me a call, or I'll be on emails, and I just have that assistance throughout the whole process.
It's fantastic, Jess. I think there's a lot of us that can use your services.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you're sitting there and thinking, yeah, okay, I get it, I need some help, all of Jess's contact details will be in the show notes. And if you can't find them there, you know that you can reach out at any time via social media or, of course, through the Tradies in Business website. Jess, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really fascinating learning about what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun. Just talking all things organising is definitely something I'm passionate about.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.